Look, I want to move on to a really important issue about media diversity, because so far the conversation has been driven by former prime ministers with grudges and a national broadcaster which benefits from having no competitors in the digital age. Kevin Rudd has really been leading the charge after he was ousted as prime minister. Now, he ignores the fact it was actually his own party which turfed him, and instead he peddles the conspiracy theory that it was the coordinated agenda of journalists to oust him. He's hardly an objective voice on the matter, but that doesn't stop the ABC from airing him on radio, television and online whenever they want someone to bag Sky News. Like this article from last week, where the ABC couldn't resist putting a negative spin on Sky's announcement of a new multi-year broadcasting deal in regional Australia. What I fear is it will entirely skew local debates about local concerns and local communities in a particularly mad direction, as opposed to the normal cut and thrust of news coverage. Well, you'd think the ABC would want more diversity of choice in the regions, but of course that would mean less people watching the national broadcaster and less of an argument to ask taxpayers for more cash. And here is Kevin Rudd on his own YouTube channel complaining that we have more followers than him and suggesting the only reason for that is because we have a secret and evil far-right and extreme agenda.
Sky News' YouTube channel passed 1 billion views. Put that in perspective, that is twice the size of the ABC, that is 3 times the size of Channel 9, that is 4 times the size of Channel 7. And that has Sky News steaming towards 2 million new subscribers to its YouTube channel. This is a vast new presence in Australian politics and society opening up. And based on the American precedent, it has as its clear mission statement the encouragement of far-right extreme views.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. We are indeed proud of our digital success. But I personally think characterising our nearly 2 million subscribers as far-right extremists is a little unfair. And if you are one of those people Kevin has slandered over and over again as being a radical, out of touch with mainstream views and downright dangerous, well, I have some news from you. He's wrong, and I have the data to prove it. The University of Canberra has released its 2021 Digital News Report, which surveyed tens of thousands of Australians asking about their political views and where they get the news. And here's what they discovered. There is indeed, as Kevin suggests, a dramatic ideological oversaturation in digital media, but it certainly isn't to the right, politically speaking. That dotted line on this graph represents the views of the average Australian. It is the truest example of centrist political thinking and Australian media consumption. And have a look at The Guardian, way over there to the left. It caters to such a radically left-wing group of people, alongside Crikey, The Conversation, The Sunday Paper, that they are all nearly off the chart. Not an original, interesting, centrist thought among them. They are simply titles read by the most ideologically radical extremists in the country, and their journalists are so ignorant that they believe themselves to be centrists. It's hilarious, really. Now take a look at Sky News Australia. We are smack bang on the line for centrist views. Our content is actually consumed by politically balanced people more than any brand in Australia. So what's going on here? How can Kevin Rudd be so certain that our digital offerings are dangerously right-wing when the data tells him the complete opposite? I know Kevin read this report as well because he cherry-picked a section about trust and tweeted it out to try and slander the journalists at this network. So what's really happening here is people on the left are attempting to move that dotted centrist line and drag it further to their way of thinking. Or to use Kevin's own words, they are trying to skew local debates into a mad direction. In actuality, all of you watching at home and online are not radicals, and your opinions do matter. And as our dear friend at The Guardian, Amanda Mead, points out in this same report, people will subscribe and watch news and analysis they believe to be fair and impartial. Whatever the shortfalls of journalism, especially in its fragmented state, the data reveals the public crave fairness and balance. They want news outlets to be impartial, and they reward those who are. Well, perhaps Amanda Mead should pass that advice on to the people that run The Guardian Australia's YouTube page. Then perhaps they would have more than 10,000 subscribers and an academic report outing them as a bunch of radical activists. Let's bring the panel back in. Sophie, What do you think about this Kevin Rudd argument that, one, we're either tiny and irrelevant and we're this radical extremist slice of society that should be ignored, or we're this massive movement that's controlling the public debate? I don't understand how we could be both things.
Look, Kevin Rudd, here we go again. I mean, what a bitter and twisted individual he is. And look, Jackie's doing the PR for Sky News there, pumping up their tyres and explaining how their subscriber base has been increasing dramatically. But I just think, why do we keep giving Kevin Rudd out there in the media, the ABC and the Guardian just keep giving him oxygen every time, when really, who cares what this guy thinks? He's a has-been Prime Minister. And I think we've got to stop putting him on speed dial. These journalists must have his phone number in their favourites, because they seem to dial him up for a quote, bagging Sky News at least a couple of times a day, if not a week.
Yeah, James, there's a saying in newspapers, isn't it? The old rent-a-quote. Everybody knows someone that you can call up, you know exactly what they're going to say, and it can help flesh out your article. It looks like Kevin's become the rent-a-quote for the ABC.
Well, yeah, of course he has, but, because he fulfills their mandate. He tells them exactly what they want to hear, as you suggest. But, of course, what those numbers prove is that Kevin Rudd isn't telling people in Australia what they want to hear. The ABC isn't telling people in Australia, meeting them according to their own mandate to, provide news and coverage for all Australians. No, they're doing it to the left, as are the Guardian, as are Crikey, as are all of these other news outlets. There's something really quite funny about this, because actually, everybody thinks, people like Kevin Rudd, they all say, oh, Sky News is so right-wing. The thing that I hear so much from viewers, and in fact, I met one this morning on the street, he said, it's thank you for the common sense. It's not about the right-wing politics that they're looking for. They're looking for common sense, and they are not getting it from the ABC, from the Sydney Morning Herald, from the Nine papers, from any of these outlets. And it's also, I think, disturbing, because remember, the last time Labor was in power, there was all that talk of regulating the media. Well, it's quite clear that Kevin Rudd has a big problem with the fact that 1 million Australians would have quite voluntarily gone and clicked to subscribe to that channel, or would have gone to voluntarily subscribe to our services through Foxtel. It is just really chilling, actually, that he doesn't trust people to make their own decisions about what media they consume. Presumably, he'd like to see that regulated. But of course, the reason why he doesn't trust the people is because the people, in his mind, betrayed him when they kicked him out of office the last time.
Yeah, particularly when people are willing to spend money on a product, such as buying subscriptions to News Corp's paper. He doesn't trust them to use their own money. It is really a hilarious argument.